Hey everyone, I am excited to be joining you virtually today for this conference. I'm Morgan, the owner of Content on Draft. My company is a social media marketing company with a craft beer focus, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how auditing your social media strategy can benefit your brewery. Before I get totally into the presentation, I just want to give you a little bit of background on Content on Draft. I started the company in 2018 with my co-founder Amy in Buffalo, New York. We actually expanded outside of New York State after joining this group, Craft Beer Professionals, in 2020. I've really appreciated the community and the multiple opportunities to speak and just connecting with Andrew, being on panels. It's a really great place to be in this industry. So since then, since joining the group, I've worked with breweries in different states across the country, New York, where I'm based, Connecticut, North Carolina, Texas, California. So really kind of all over the map. I'm hoping to plan some trips now that it's more usual to travel again, I would say. My specialty specifically is creating custom strategies for breweries to engage their Facebook and Instagram followers and convert them into taproom customers because, of course, everyone wants to make social media worth their while, and that means actually monetizing it. So I do some day-to-day for craft beer companies locally in the Buffalo area. But my main focus is really giving the people already working at your brewery the tools and training they need to grow your social media profiles in-house. Because in my experience, breweries know their beer and their people really, really well. But not always how to attract those ideal customers online and then get them spending in their tap rooms. So that's kind of where my expertise can come in handy. I am going to be asking for engagement throughout the presentation because that's something that I like to do. So if you are tuning in today, let me know who you are, where you're from, and where you're joining from. All right. So I want to just do a little bit of background on social media itself and why it matters to breweries. More than half the world's population uses social media now. There's more than 4 billion active users worldwide. Nearly 500 million of those people joined in 2021. So it's something that's continuing to increase, continuing to grow. The average user is spending more than 2 hours a day on social media. So they're spending a lot of time there. Even in this post-pandemic world that we're navigating, people are looking to social media and spending some time researching there. So it's definitely important. Something important to remember too is that people are splitting that time between different platforms because different platforms appeal to different types of users. So some people are going to prefer Facebook while others might prefer Instagram, others are preferring TikTok. There's a lot of different places people are spending their time. It's important to have a presence on multiple platforms, know your audience, know where they like to spend their time, and know the strengths and weaknesses of the platforms. They're not all the same, so having an identical strategy is not the best strategy. Today, in terms of talking about the auditing process, I'm going to focus on Facebook and Instagram. That's my area of expertise. It's also where I've seen breweries see the best return on their investment when it comes to social media. And I truly believe both are a must for breweries. But being active on social media really isn't enough. Just having that presence isn't enough. You want to have an engaged online audience, and you want to continue to grow that audience. And the best way to do that is to really focus on what's keeping your target audience interested and engaged. And this is going to change over time. So just really getting to know those insights and analyzing that is kind of more what we're going to talk about in this presentation. So before you can engage your audience, you need to get to know them. So who is your target audience? What type of information are they looking for? What types of content do they like to interact with? How do they prefer to consume their content? And is your current social media strategy reaching them? So all of that's going to help you figure out how to better engage more people and grow that audience of ideal customers. But honestly, it can be tricky to tell exactly what's working and what's not. Unfortunately, just looking at those numbers on Instagram or on Facebook isn't really going to tell you that information. Analysis is really a really important piece of the puzzle. And that's really what auditing is all about. It's an in-depth analysis of your social media presence that you're going to focus on the strengths and weaknesses in your current social media strategy. It's going to include both quantitative, so numbers, as well as qualitative data. Each of those are both equally important. I like to kind of compare it to a health checkup, but for social media. So instead of going to the doctor and doing height, weight, blood pressure, all that, you're looking for those social media metrics, whether you're reaching your goals on social media, or if you need an adjustment, or if you're missing the mark completely. This is going to be referring to things like reaching your target market, maximizing your reach on individual posts, and creating content that encourages engagement. So you can audit your social media accounts yourself internally with your team, or you can hire someone else if you're looking for that unbiased perspective. That's really up to you. Today, I'm going to kind of go through what the process is like. So if you want to audit your accounts yourself, you have somewhere to start. And before I go through the process, I want to talk about the benefits. So, aka, why are you listening to this presentation? How does it benefit you? How does it benefit your brewery? And I'm just realizing that I totally missed all the chat. So a quick pause here. Hi, Amy from Storm Cloud Brewing Company, Sarah from Beer Hound, Steve from Moment Brewing, and Mary from Snapshot Brewing. Oh, I love the shout out to New York. I actually grew up in Rochester too. I grew up in Brockport, and then I moved to Buffalo for college and just kind of fell in love with it. But my parents still live in the Rochester area, so I make it back there frequently. All right, so thank you guys for joining. It's awesome to see different people from different states. That's one of the things I really love about this group and this community is that we can connect with people from all over. So back to the presentation and why you're listening to me talk about this topic today, how it benefits you, how it benefits your brewery. Oh my gosh, wait. Mary graduated from Brockport High School. So did I. Mary, we will have to chat and reminisce about that. So benefits of an audit. So one of the big benefits is it's going to help you accurately evaluate your current strategy. A lot of times people feel like they're doing well on social media or they feel like they're not doing well on social media. But either way, it doesn't mean you actually are or aren't. You really want to look at the numbers to be sure. You want to figure out, are you reaching certain goals? Are you almost reaching certain goals? Are you completely lost? And which areas you're doing well in and which areas could really use improvement. An example of this would be engagement. Are you engaging your audience often, sometimes, or rarely? You might feel one way, but the numbers are going to tell you, what's your engagement rate? What's your reach rate? And how are you really doing? So that is one of the first benefits of auditing is it's not going to be so subjective. It's going to be objective and tell you, hey, you're here and here's where you want to be, that kind of thing. And the second benefit is kind of pretty related to that one. It's going to establish a baseline and help you set goals. So that's going to be, where do you currently stand when you're compared to competitors or industry standards on social media? What are you doing really well? Where can you improve? Is there something that another brewery down the street or a brewery out of state is doing that you could try to? An example I like to give for this is from a local brewery that is in my home. I want to say hometown because Buffalo does really feel like home, but here in Buffalo, they're actually around the block from me. Community Beer Works. They have a Facebook group. It does really well. Their social media manager, Mike, does a great job, and that's a conversation I've had with a lot of breweries. Is a Facebook group something to look into? And that's something you can kind of figure out as you're getting to know your audience. So the third benefit is going to be spending your time more effectively. So everyone knows there's a shortage on time and a never-ending to-do list. But when you know what's working and what's in it, what isn't, your team can really invest your time and resources so much more effectively and efficiently. An example of this, I would say, that I see sometimes is breweries putting a lot of time into content that's not really benefiting them enough. This could be something like long produced interviews. If your audience doesn't have that attention span to go through those interviews, you're kind of wasting your time there. Whereas maybe if you did a short video, like under 60 seconds, that might engage them more, or trying something like teasing that longer interview could serve you better. So just identifying what really is the best use of your time is one of the benefits of doing an audit. The next benefit is establishing a system to measure your team's progress. So everyone likes to measure progress. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? What does it mean for you when you reach certain goals? It can be hard to really measure accurately on social media where you're progressing, but it's much easier when you really break it down to numbers. And something I really like to emphasize with this is, what does it mean when your team starts to reach those goals through social media? That means for your brewery, it could mean more money in your pocket. You can do more live music. More money in your pocket. You can hire someone to take tasks off your super long to-do list. Whatever it means, that really should focus you in and keep you motivated to reaching those goals. And it can mean different things for different breweries, but measuring that progress, setting some goals, setting some incentives can be huge for your brewery. And the last thing is kind of the overall goal that a lot of breweries are looking towards, is creating that stronger social media presence. Once you know what's working and what's not, you really can start to strengthen it. And that's where you're going to really start to see that revenue return on your investment and time in social media. which is important to everyone. All right, so now to get into the auditing process, I'm going to break it down into 4 main steps. The first step is review. The second step is compare. The third is analyze. And the fourth is take action. I would say this is a good overview, high level of the process. And then I'm going to dive into the specifics in the next few slides. All right, so step number 1 is an important step because it's the first step. And this is going to tell you if you are reaching your goals on social media. Do you need an adjustment? Are you missing the mark completely in certain areas? Whether your goals are reaching more people on social media, growing your overall following, engaging your following, or all of the above, this step is really going to hone in on that. And then I say, again, why do those goals matter to you? If your goal is to have more followers just to have them, that's not a great goal. But if your goal is to have more followers in a specific demographic because you're really trying to appeal to that demographic and that's important to you, that's a better goal. And thinking about why those goals matter, what that really means for your brewery, that's a huge part of this step. And then figuring out what's working, what isn't, not going off how you feel about your accounts and really looking at it objectively. Guessing is very different than knowing. An example here is if you want to increase your engagement on posts, don't just guess. Something that I hear often is, I think we're about at like 10% engagement rate, and that brewery ends up actually being at less than 1%. So your engagement rate is something that's going to tell you what percentage of your followers are engaging with your content. And the more you can increase that number, the more you're going to start to see that return on putting that time into social media, having that engagement kind of spiral and get people excited. But if you're not engaging your audience, that's more important than that follower number. You want to have that audience engaged and interested in interacting. And you want to know where you're at so you can start to increase that. That's really when breweries start to succeed, is when that engagement rate increases. So the second step is going to be comparing. So I know the craft beer industry is very collaborative, which is honestly something that I love. But everyone has competitors, direct competitors, or just brands that you aspire to be more like. I call those benchmark brands. So whether we're talking about the brewery down the street, the brewery in another city, or the brewery that you just look to their social media and you're like, I love the content they're creating. This step in the process is about comparing what you're doing to those competitors or those benchmark brands. And those benchmark brands can be those accounts you aspire to be more like, or an account that you see as like an industry leader. The cool part of this part of the process is that you're going to figure out what they're doing well, what they're doing poorly, and how you can use that knowledge to inform your own strategy. So there's a lot of different lessons to be learned from other people's social media. And something I tell people is to look at the content that you're already engaging with. Like if you are within that target market that you're looking to reach, it's a great way to figure out what's working and what's not as a consumer. So if you're like, I love seeing posts from X brewery, like think about why you like those posts. Something that I really like to do is save those posts. There's an option to, do that right in Instagram, and just figuring out what I like about them. I really connect in posts. And when I say, I mean, when posts feature the staff, when it's someone I get to learn about, I really like that. So doing that kind of exercise to figure out what is appealing to you as a consumer can help you improve your own brand. And it's going to also help you figure out where you currently stand compared to others. So I say to look at a brewery that's about the same size following as you. So you don't really want to compare yourself to someone with 50,000 followers if you have 10,000 followers, when we're talking about numbers. But getting to know, like, are you engaging the same amount of people as a brewery of a similar size following? How do you measure up? That's a really telling part of the process. The third step is analyzing. So this is a step that I think people skip. So your social media insights are going to tell you X post got 10 likes and the next post got 100 likes or 50 comments or 5 comments. And while those are important to notice, you really do want to go deeper than that and look at why those posts are doing well and why the other ones aren't doing well. Really look at if you're engaging people with certain posts, if you're reaching new people, or is it always the same people? Are people visiting your profile? What gets more people to visit your profile? What are the problems with your social media presence? What are the opportunities that you can really take advantage of and maximize? So taking that time to really dive into the analysis side of what are these numbers telling me and what do they mean in terms of what I need to do next? All right, the fourth step, which is the most important step. If you skip this step, just skip the whole audit because this is so important. Having an action plan. What are you going to do next? You have these numbers, you have this analysis, then it's time to set goals. Think about where you are right now on social media, where you want to be, get specific, set meaningful goals. Why do you want to increase engagement on certain posts? Maybe it's because you're not seeing a ton of people at trivia night and you want to see more. That's a specific goal. You're not seeing engagement from men, but you're seeing more from women. You want to even it out. You want to think of different ways to reach that demographic. Any of those kind of more specific things. And if you want to grow your following and keep them engaged, I would say is important as well as you grow it. And going back to what does accomplishing these goals mean for your brewery? What does it mean for your staff? What does it mean for you? Is it going to be something that everyone benefits from? Think about it and really take some time to reflect on that. I like to attach meaning to goals. For me, that might mean I get to book another trip or go to another place or whatever it is. Just having that motivation there is huge. And once you have your goals, taking the time to identify the steps you need to reach them is also super important. An example for this is, say you want to grow your customer base. You want more people to see your posts. You're going to want to focus on something like your engagement rate, because that's really going to influence the number of people your posts are seen by. So if you're currently engaging 2% of your followers and you have 10,000 followers, this means only 200 of your followers are engaging with your posts. That's not a lot of people. You want to increase that engagement rate. And the way you're going to do that is to get to know what your audience likes to engage with. And the reason this is meaningful is if you increase that engagement rate and you're only engaging 2% right now, and you increase it just to 5%, you have 300 more chances to convert those followers into taproom customers. So you're actually making money from what you're doing on social media. You're not just spending time on there because you love it. It's actually giving you that return you're looking for. That's a really short, quick example of one goal. Everyone has different goals, but taking the time to identify what those are for social media and creating an action plan of how you're going to reach those specifically is super important to the whole auditing process. So, quickly, who can benefit from an audit? The first thing I'll say is auditing your social media presence takes some time. I would say for most breweries, you're going to want to spread this over a few weeks because you're going to be juggling everyday tasks. It's not like you're going to sit down and shut down the brewery for a week to do an audit. You're going to want to carve out some time, a couple hours, to really dive into it at different times. But I honestly recommend it for most breweries. And that's whether you're the owner and you're the one posting and you're just looking for specific ways to improve your strategy. If you have someone on staff who runs your social media runs your social media accounts, whether that's a taproom manager, social media coordinator, intern, and if they're looking for ways to improve and you're looking for ways to evaluate how they're doing, this can be really beneficial. Maybe you're thinking, wow, we're spending a lot of time on social media and not getting the results you want. Taking a pause and really auditing what you're doing is going to save you time and money in the long run. And it's also a good idea if you're thinking about hiring someone new to come on and run your social media accounts. That person isn't going to necessarily know your audience and know what's working well for you. So it's good to have that perspective, that objective perspective of an audit before you hand over the reins to this person. In all of these scenarios, having that in-depth understanding of your brewery strengths and weaknesses is really valuable because once you do have this, it guides your entire strategy. So wrapping up here, so we have some time for questions. Just want to quickly summarize what I went over. Auditing is the best first step you can take to maximize and monetize your social media. I went through this very quickly, but I'm giving you an outline here. Every brewery is different. Every audit's going to be a little different because you have different priorities. But I truly believe every brewery can benefit from auditing their social media strategy. In my experience, they have. And what I would say, what's next for you is use what you learned today, meet with your team, audit your own accounts, I am giving you a starting point here. I have an auditing system that I've used to successfully help breweries locally and in other states. So if it's something you want that unbiased perspective on, I can definitely chat with you about that. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or in my group Customers on Draft. I do in-depth audits like I outlined today, as well as quick first impression audits to get you started. And just checking the chat here to make sure I didn't miss anything. And lastly, do you have any questions for me about the auditing process? I know that was very rapid fire. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I appreciate everyone coming from different areas to tune into this. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes to take any questions if you have them. All right, we have our first question. It says, do you have a template you use for social media management? Can you kind of expand on what you mean there by a template? I would say I definitely have a process and a system. I don't know that I would call it necessarily a template because I do believe it's different for every brewery. In terms of something kind of like a template, I would say the crafted conversions system that I use sets you up to use specific templates for your brewery. Looking back at the question, reporting to the brewery manager owner. I don't quite understand what you're asking. A template, I would say, in terms of reporting progress, yes. I would use a spreadsheet to show the growth, and that would be a template that I would recommend. And that's going to include different metrics depending on what's important to you. So kind of how I mentioned earlier, engagement rate, that would be something to show, hey, in February, we started here. In March, we're here. I do have one for engagement rate specifically that I'd be happy to share if you're interested in that. Feel free to message me. I can just send that over. It's kind of a basic, everyone can use it template. You can customize it if you want, but a good starting point if you'd like that resource. And Sarah, okay, so how do we calculate page engagement? You know how to see individual post engagement. So that is going to be engagement rate. I think that you actually want the same spreadsheet that I'm talking about. That's going to tell you the percentage of your audience you're engaging over however many posts you're sharing. So I can send that to you as well if you just want to shoot me a message. It's all set up to calculate it kind of nicely for you. It's a great starting point if you really aren't tracking a lot of metrics right now. And I think it's a way better way to tell you how you're doing than just looking at counting up likes and comments. It's really going to tell you, hey, you're engaging 5% of your followers. You're engaging 3% of your followers. So yeah, I would be happy to send that over to anyone who's interested. That's a great question. And I am happy to already have that set up. If there's any more questions, I do have a Facebook group of my own, Customers on Draft. It's a small community of all social media managers, owners, taproom managers who post to social media. It's a place where I share some resources. People ask questions. I'm working on some video trainings to share with the group as well. You can request to join that. And if you have a more specific question, you can email me. My email is morgan@contentondraft.com. Happy to answer any audit specific questions that maybe you don't want to ask publicly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm kind of an open book. So if we have any more questions, feel free to ask them. And if you're looking to connect with other people in the industry who want to know more about social media, Customers on Draft, look me up. Happy to add you to the group. And that spreadsheet is something that I have shared in there as well before. And it's helped some people. So happy to share it with everyone on the talk today who wants it. And before I officially sign off, I just want to thank Andrew for inviting me to speak. I really enjoy this community, and I'm super excited to be connecting in person in this coming September for Craft Beer Professionals Connects. So yeah, can't wait to have a beer with you in person and check out some of the cool spots in Virginia. And I hope everyone else on here enjoys the rest of their day, and feel free to reach out with questions if you have them. Thanks, guys.